Hi, this is a DIY video on how to draw your own different fonts. We're going to start with bubble lettering, and what you're going to do first is draw out the word. This way it doesn't run off the paper and you know all your lettering is correct. Then you go around your letters with all curves, no edges, and the final step is erase the first lines that you made. So you want to make sure your first step is super light so that way it'll actually erase. Then you can color in and add detail. Our second font is block lettering. And you will do the exact same steps to begin with. You'll write out your word, make sure the spacing is right, and then when you draw all of your lines, you want them to have all edges, no curves, a lot of octagons, hexagons, triangles, squares, things like that. And then you can go back and erase your lettering to begin with. Same thing, Sharpie it, add your details. The next one is basic graffiti lettering, and a lot of the rest here are graffiti lettering. So this is the basics for your baseline. You're going to write out the word same way you did bubble and block and go around it with very curvy, pointy. You're going to mix the two styles. Make sure that you have them overlapping. It looks a little more like graffiti if they can overlap. So when you draw your words, if you make them closer, it helps out. Erase your basic letters inside and then go back to add your details. The following ones all have details. So this one has lettering with an outline, and it basically just has an outline around the actual word. So that way it pops off of the surface. So you could draw your graffiti and then color it in with two different colors. So that way the words actually pop off of the page as well. So we'll go around it here and outline each letter individually, overlapping each one. And then we'll go in and erase our edge from the first lines. Make sure we do any touch-ups if needed. And then you go around it with a simple outline. The next one is curvy graffiti lettering with an individual outline. That means that each letter gets its own outline instead of one giant outline around all the letters. This way you can add different colors between each letter, things like that. If you would like to add details behind each one, same kind of concept. So we touch up and then we do an individual outline between each letter, starting with your first letter and moving all the way to the right. The next one is called Bubblegum graffiti, and what it's supposed to look like is someone is blowing their actual bubble for their bubble gum. So you want to make sure the left side of the letter is bigger than the right side if you can help it. And that includes any space. For example, inside the A, you have the little circle. That goes all the way to the left to make it look like the bubble is bigger on one side. So I'll erase my inside here, and I can go and actually draw kind of like a speech bubble around it. But then I also add highlights to each letter and to the bubble. So here is the bubble. And then we add our little curvy triangles on each letter, and it's up to you where each one goes and how many you actually want. The next graffiti, you're going to want to add in drips of paint. So you start off the normal way with your word written out, go around each one, making sure they overlap, and then erase the inside. And then afterwards, you want to start adding in drips of paint. I do this with lots of U's and W's, and I start at the bottom of the lettering. It seems to flow better. Then I can go back inside the word and add extras. So as you see here, I do lots of big W's and U's, very curvy, very random. You don't want to go in a pattern where you go big, small for your drips. Be very noticeable. And then I go back in and I do the lettering on top. And go and add little drips as well. The next one is a 3D curvy graffiti that also has an outline. So this one will look like it pops off of the page. So you start out normal, same way. And then we'll go in and add a little bit of a shadow basically on the left-hand side. Now you can add it to the right as well, but I think it looks a lot nicer on the left-hand side. So I decided to add it over there. And each letter, anywhere I think I would see that left-hand shadow, I added in. And then I also did an outline. And then I went back in and erased all of my lines at the end. Touched it up, and it's finished. The next one is very similar. It's a 3D edgy graffiti, but I didn't add the outline to it so you could see where the edges were a lot easier. So you draw it out the same way, but instead of doing it really curvy like the last one, you're going to go back to that more block style and make sure that they overlap. And when you do this, you can add that 3D effect a lot easier. So I quickly erased all of my insides. And then I drew lines going back all the same direction from every corner I possibly could, all going back left. If you change your direction, you won't be able to have a consistent 3D effect. So I made sure mine all went to the back left. And then I connected all of them to match the original letter. The final part of this video is where I do my last name, and I use bubble and block, and then I add a point and make all of my lines go back to this point, so it looks like I'm using perspective to give it the 3D feel. So I drew out my name, then I erased the insides, I drew a little dot back there, and I used a ruler to connect each of the edges to that dot. You really want to make sure the ruler lines up with the dot each time, or you'll lose that consistency. And this is to really help out so you know you didn't miss any. And then I added the extra line to match the lines from before. The second one here I did in block just to demonstrate the same thing. And again, block is much easier than bubble. So if you can master block, then I would move on to bubble afterwards. And I just had all of my lines go back to the dots. And then I went and connected them with a similar line from where the letter was before. I'm hoping that you enjoyed this video, and I will hope to add some photos at the end of this later on of them all colored in. Have fun!